Recording. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Northern Onondaga Public Library's presentation with the SECNY Federal Credit Union. Tonight, we're going to be talking with Eric Radley from SECNY about budgeting and planning tips and all that sort of fun stuff. Eric, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And I will go ahead and pass the mic on to you. Virtual mic. Here you go.
Thank you. Yes. Welcome, everybody. It's great to have you here today to talk a little bit about jumpstarting your savings. My name is Eric Radley. As mentioned, I've been working with SECNY and in the credit union space for a little over 10 years now, with a bulk of my work being in financial education and kind of family finance planning. So this is right up my alley. I've done this workshop a million times, and I hope that after watching this, you'll walk away with a few actionable items that you and your family can take to set yourself up for a better financial future moving forward. In particular, a better system for saving money as you move forward with your family. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So today there's a few things we're going to cover. So let's talk about those. First and foremost, we're going to talk about setting financial goals. We're going to talk about spending leaks, right? I mean, I'm assuming everyone knows needs versus wants. I actually just recently did a class with, elementary students talking about that. So I think folks know needs versus wants, but many don't realize that there's something called spending leaks, right? And how do we prevent those from happening? And I mean, I know for myself, I've got a few that I have to work on, and a lot of times people don't even realize they're there. So we're going to talk about those. We're going to talk about maximizing income, minimizing expenses, creating that plan for ourselves and for our family, and then we're going to start to establish a habit as we do this. So going right into it, the first and foremost thing you have to do if you're going to start saving money seriously is that you need to begin thinking about the future. Whenever you're saving money, it needs to be for some sort of purpose. When you give your money purpose, it's going to help you establish that savings habit a lot quicker. So the question becomes, how do we give our money purpose? If we just set money aside and just say, oh, this is just my savings, we're more apt to dip into that and use that money. But if we set aside money and we have a purpose for it, studies show that we are going to leave it alone until we're ready to use it for that purpose. So with that said, there's really three areas of purpose that we focus on for our saving goals, right? And this is where we want to start. We want to know exactly why we're saving money in what we're reaching for, either individually or as a family here. So there's short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. The question I receive most frequently about these terms is, what are they, right? What is the term that I'm planning for? And so what I typically like to tell folks is that your short-term goals should be within 1 year, okay? Sit down and think, this is a goal, this is a financial goal that I have that I would like to achieve within the next 12 months. For a midterm goal, I like to say that's going to span anywhere beyond that 1 year mark to 3 years. Okay. So sometimes for some people, this is saving up for a new car. For some people, it might be saving up for a boat, right? Or some people, it might just be, let's save up enough to invest in something, right? Whether it be investing in property or investing in the market, right? And you're going to work with your financial planner for that. Now, a long-term goal is savings beyond 3 years. And a lot of people look at houses, right? Or your retirement planning or education planning for your children or even for yourself, really. So those three terms are where you want to set your goals and really function and kind of create a strategy for your saving based off of those three-tiered structures. But take the time to sit down and map those out. And like I said, give your plans and your money purpose. Because if you don't, this isn't going to work. So step number one, create those goals, short-term, midterm, and long-term. Wants, needs, and spending leaks. As I said, everyone knows what the wants are and what the needs are, right? We need food, we need shelter, we want maybe the newest iPhone, right? So in those ways, everyone has a decent foundation of what needs and wants are. But what most people don't realize is that there's actually a ton of spending leaks because there are companies out there in their marketing departments, in their retail departments, who are coming up with strategies to get you to sign up for things or to purchase things frequently for low prices, but then you don't realize how much it actually adds up to be. Okay. A super popular example. How many of you drive to Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks to get your morning coffee? Right. I'm willing to bet that a few hands are going up. Right. Now, that coffee doesn't seem like it's going to be very expensive at that time. But when you sit down and you say, I do that every day of the work week. So there's 5 days a week. We're going to add that up. We're going to multiply that by how many weeks I work in a year. And you're going to see the total amount of money that you've just spent going to Dunkin' every morning. Yet, if you looked at the opposite, making your coffee at home, you might find that you could save quite a bit of money by kind of making it at home, skipping the convenience of Dunkin' maybe to go through the drive-through, but really you're going to save on gas from waiting in that drive-through lane, and you're going to be able to buy in bulk with your coffee and make your coffee at home, and you're going to save money in multiple ways. Okay, that's the easiest way. Now, the other kind of concept that we explore in spending leaks is things that you have subscribed to or signed up for that you don't use anymore, but they're still charging you every month for it. So do you have Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus, all of the different subscriptions, right? But are you using them? Is there one that maybe you got thinking you'd use it, but you don't use it anymore? Go ahead and cancel that subscription, right? If they're charging you on a regular basis, but you are not using the service anymore, cut it off, because that is a spending leak. Your money is leaking out of your account in that way, and you don't need it to anymore. So do some due diligence, take a look at your statements, go into online banking, go into your online statements if they're not listed like online banking lists them, and take a look and say, what is this charge? Where is it from? Do I use this anymore? No? Okay, it's out. I'm going to cancel it because I don't need it, right? So right there, when we attack our spending leaks, we're immediately going to begin to impact our expense and income ratio, and we're preparing to create our plan for ourselves and our family. The next step that we want to take is to identify ways to maximize our income, okay? Are we doing everything we can to make sure that income is coming in? Now, are we going to suggest that you work 7 days a week, 8 hours a day so that you never see your family and you never get a vacation? No, that is absolutely not what we mean here. But what we do mean here is looking and identifying opportunities for you to make some money, right? So right off the bat, you see things like selling items, which it's never been easier when you think about online with the marketplace, with the different apps you can download to sell things. Like selling items in your home that you do not need anymore has never been easier. It's the easiest thing that you can do. Just make sure you're safe about it, right? Now, other things that you can explore, if you have the time, you could ask for extra hours at work if your career works that way, or even look for a part-time job. I will share with you, when I was young, I actually I had my full-time job during the day, but then I sought out a part-time job because I wanted to help kind of reduce some of my debt and then start to save a little bit earlier. So sometimes if you have the capacity, look for a part-time job. See what you can find. It can be a great way to meet people too and make new friends. But ultimately, too, the last part here is providing services or starting your own business. Now, starting your own business is a big leap, right? Not everyone is cut out for it. You really got to hustle. But if you're in the situation where you really want to, I would say go for it and look to our local small business administration offices for some help, right? You can go right online, SBA, and I believe that they also have a relationship with Onondaga Community College, so you can certainly check that out as well. But you can explore those options for what it would take for you to open your own business as a way to improve your income. But the other thing is maybe you just want to provide some services on the side as like a side hustle, right? Maybe there's something you're really good at. You can turn your hobby into a way to make money, okay? And that's a really cool way and sometimes very fun because you're doing something you love and then you're able to charge for that service, whether you're doing it for somebody else or you're just doing it for fun and you're going to sell a project, right? And, I like to say, enter the Etsy shop here, right? This is where everyone can start to sell items online, as we discussed before, right? All of your garage sale items, if you will. But now you can actually turn your side hustle into a way to make money, okay? Now, you may also want to explore ways to trade off services that you can do in a way that will help you save money as well. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, but we'll get into that. The next step is getting to know and understand all of your debts. One of the biggest hurdles that most people face is that they do not have a good understanding of their outstanding debts that they owe. Okay. A lot of people just think, oh, I've got a car loan and I got to pay that. And then I've got my mortgage and I pay that. But if you ask for the details, what is your interest rate on your car loan? A lot of folks don't know and they forget to write it down and keep track. So what they're paying attention to is the payment they're making every month, but they're not paying attention to an opportunity that's right in front of them to potentially save some money, especially if they got the loan prior, at least 6 months out or even beyond. You might see a change in the market with the interest rates where refinancing some of that debt could be a huge money saver. Because I think everyone knows right now rates are low. And so you can go out and explore your options. And if you've been paying your loan on time each month, your credit score might be improving. So a refinance at that point might mean an even better rate because your credit score has gone up potentially, right? So don't ever just settle, evaluate, get to know the debt that you have. A lot of people hate their debt, right? They hate it because they're paying it off. It's in the way. Credit card debt keeps me from being able to do what I want, right? Embrace it. Get to know your debt closely, and then you're going to be able to take a look and figure out what you can do to reduce that debt even faster. If you can drop this example that we see on the screen, if you can drop that car loan from 7.25% down to, for example, like a 4.25, right? We're dropping 3%. That's savings. That's money in your pocket for the remainder of that loan. So look at those things. Really get to know your debt. Don't be scared of it. Face it head on, get to know the details, and then make a plan. Shop around and see if there's a way that you can reduce that debt. Your next step is to minimize your expenses. Okay, this is similar to spending leaks, except more serious, right? These we can't necessarily get rid of like we can with spending leaks. These might be our bills, right? We have to pay these things. But there are silly things that we can avoid that aren't necessarily spending leaks because we don't do them on a regular basis, but they're silly things that we're spending money on or getting charged for that we really could have avoided if we had been on our A game and we paid attention to our finances. So things like parking tickets, late fees for things. I know a lot of people who don't realize the late fee on their credit card might be like $30 to $40, maybe even more. It really depends, but they don't realize it until it happens. And then you're kicking yourself a little bit, right? You're like, shucks, why didn't I pay that on time? That's silly. That's a $40 out the door now because I wasn't paying attention or I didn't set up automatic payment or something like that. So you definitely want to pay attention to those things and get to know your own shopping habits. I know more than one person who gets into that late night online shopping groove. And then suddenly the next morning they're thinking, what on earth did I buy last night? Right. And you have all these receipts in your email. So they make it really easy to spend money these days. And then they're going to get you. You have to cut those expenses. It's work, but you can do it. You just have to be aware and you have to get to know your financial situation, but cut down those expenses. Now, you can get a little more creative outside of just the same old, I'm going to not spend money on this. I'm going to not spend money on this. I'm going to try to cut back on late fees and parking tickets, right? Coupons and promotions are constantly happening everywhere these days. It's just what happens, right? Every store you go into has these huge signs that say sale or clearance, right? So there's bound to be some sort of promotion or coupon available. There's entire apps to scan any kind of online purchase that you make to see if there's codes that you can use, right? So it's very rare these days to find anyone paying full price for something. That said, I love this mantra. It was something that was shared with me by a credit union colleague at the time when I was working an event with them. But they said it's not on sale unless you were going to buy it in the first place. And I thought that is fantastic, right? There's all these marketing gimmicks to get us to spend more money and increase our expenses. So to minimize it, we need to remind ourselves it's not on sale unless we were going to buy it in the first place. And if we were going to buy it in the first place, then we can say, are there any promotions? Are there any coupons we can use to reduce the cost of this for us, right? And then finally, borrow, trading, and sharing rather than buying things. What I love is that our public library system is a perfect example of this. You don't have to go out and purchase all of these books for your Kindle or get the actual book to hold or anything like that. You can check out your library's resources. There's a ton of resources out there. I recommend everyone take a look at the full scope, and I'm sure you can reach out to any of your local library partners or staff at that library to ask them, what do you offer? And I think you'll be shocked. I know through a couple of different library systems, I've heard that they offer foreign language training that you can get into. So rather than paying for an app that you want to use, if that's what you're doing, you might find a resource in the library. But there's also a million other ways that you can look in your community and find out how to borrow, trade, or share. And this is where I would even recommend if you provide a service, you might be able to negotiate an agreement with somebody else in your community who provides a service. And rather than having to pay each other, you can find what I like to call a gift in kind relationship, where you provide a service to that person, and then that person will provide their service for you, but you don't have to pay for it. You've reduced that expense. And what you're really doing is paying for it with your time for the service that you offer, right? But it's still a way to potentially save some money and minimize that expense. So explore those options if you can. It's a great way to minimize, get those expenses down. We want them as low as possible. So now that we've taken the steps to analyze each of those areas of our financial activity, if you will, it's time to create and use our spending plan, okay? I've worked with a lot of people, and when I see those people, they're always like, I want to create my budget. I want to create my spending plan. And sure, they go through the steps to create it, but then it ends. They don't use it. They don't follow it. So use your spending plan if you put it together. Is it easy? Absolutely not. There are times when I have trouble with it, right? If I say I'm going to keep myself to this much, there are months that I go over 100%. I know that there are, but there's also months that I don't. And so I continue to work towards that goal and I use my spending plan to motivate me, but I don't forget about it. I know that it's there. So we take these first 4 steps to build out our spending plan and start to enact on these action plans that we're putting together with these 4 steps to help us save more money and do better financially going forward. So the first step is listing your income, which we already talked about, and you would have already explored that in the first part of your action plan through this presentation. The second is that you're going to list all of your expenses after you have minimized them. The third step is finding the difference. You're going to take that income, you're going to minus your expense, and you're going to see what's left over. Now, if you still end up in the negative, where your expenses are more than your income, you have more work to do, okay? Maybe there's additional ways to reduce your debt. Maybe there's additional ways to increase your income and additional ways to minimize your expenses, right? That's the tough part, is when you find out that your expenses outweigh or are more than your income. That's the work you have to do. And at that point in time, I highly recommend reaching out to SECNY to talk to some of our staff to figure out what you could potentially do, or if there's ways that the credit union can help you reduce your debt perhaps, or work with you to find a better process in way to pay your bills, or a different investment option to help you get more money or more bang for your buck, right? So that's when you can reach out to get that help. But once you have that in the positive and you see that your income is finally more than your expenses, that's when you can analyze and say, step 4, how do I do this? We list out changes that we are actively going to do in the short term, midterm, and long term in order to meet our goals, increase income, and reduce our expenses. Once you have that list of action items, you're going to do it. And then in a month, you're going to check in on it, see if there's anything else that has changed, and then you're going to do it again, right? You can't just do it and then forget it, right? This is something you have to actively do over and over again. And at first it seems like a drag, but once you keep doing it for a little while, you're going to get it into a flow. You're going to feel good about it, and you're going to have it down. At the beginning of each month, you're going to take a look, income, expenses, the difference. Great. What can I do to change? I noticed that this month this happened, so we can probably make a change there, right? Once you get going, you're going to find that it's actually quite easy to check in on everything, but getting started is the tough part. But I believe that you can do it. Follow these steps, and you're going to be able to get there. Next, as soon as you've now established the fact that you are able to make more than you are expending, right? We can start to explore and establish our saving habit. All right. So how does that start out? First, we need to save in a way that fits our goals and shows that saving money is important for us and for our family. Okay. And we call that paying yourself first. You've probably heard it before, but a lot of people are like, okay, what exactly does that mean? It means before you go out and spend that money on your wants or the things that you don't necessarily need, but you might just kind of, a pack of gum, candy bars, Amazon shopping at night, right? Before you do that, you are going to literally move that money into your savings accounts for your goals, short-term, midterm, and long-term. So you're literally going to pay yourself towards those goals before you spend any extra money anywhere else. Okay. People get really frustrated at this step. I would ask you why. Well, one of the main reasons is because it seems too small or it's going to take too long. You have to keep in mind that if you stay the course, it's going to pay off. There is no amount that's too small to set aside towards your goals because that money is going to compound on itself and you're slowly going to see it grow over time. And depending on your dividend return, you might see a little extra coming your way based off of the balance of that savings that you have in your account. So stick it out. Keep working at it, right? It's going to be disappointing. I'm not going to lie to you. When you first start out, you're going to say, man, this isn't growing as fast as I want it to. But you're doing the right thing. Have faith and stick it through because it will grow. Small amounts over time are going to be great, right? In the end, they will be best for you. Now, the other thing you want to keep in mind is that once you do start to pay yourself, you don't have to do it the same amount every single time. If your income increases, you can put more into that savings account. So don't forget to change that if you need to, and you have the capability of saving more money for yourself. So do that if you can. Now, in terms of the return, or if you're going to use an account with some sort of dividend or interest rate, right? Try to pick something that's going to at least beat inflation. Okay. So that could be looking and talking to your financial planner to potentially put some of your savings in a mutual fund rather than just a savings account. Or perhaps like here at SECNY, we have cash management accounts where you can actually get a little bit higher of a return, but you do have to have a certain amount in the account already saved to start to get that, right? So once you reach a certain level, you're going to have options for where you can put that savings to earn even more on your balance. And so explore those things. Try to find those financial tools that you can use for your savings so that you can earn more. Make your money work for you. When you get that balance up, start to find those things where you can put your money and earn more off of that balance. So to kind of recap and review everything that we've covered today in this workshop, we've essentially talked about setting your financial goals, short-term, midterm, and long-term goals with those timeframes that I mentioned. We obviously know about wants and needs, but some people may not realize those spending leaks. So we're going to figure out where those leaks are and we're going to clog them, right? We're going to stop those leaks immediately if we can and either reduce, we might be able to just cut back on those actions on those spending leaks and start to save money, or we can cut it out completely, quit cold turkey and save even more. We've talked about maximizing our income, minimizing our expenses, and then putting together our spending plan. Now, one of the other things we talked about was reducing debt. That gets a little bit trickier, right? But don't be afraid to dive in and take a look at it. And again, in those situations, reach out to the credit union. We might have options to help you do that, or reach out to your financial institution and talk about different ways that you can reduce your debt if you can, right? So explore that. And then once you have your spending plan in place, you're going to be able to take that extra money where your expenses don't overbear your income and you have extra money to start putting aside in savings. Your plan is going to be put to work, right? You're going to start to do that. And then you've established a habit. And from that habit, you're going to grow your savings balances. And from those balances, you're going to be able to use financial tools where your money is going to make you more money each quarter. So with that, my only final rule is be kind to yourself. Now, it seems silly and maybe a little cheesy to say this, but I'm going to tell you right now, you are your worst critic. So the second that you accidentally overspend or maybe you tried to reduce a spending leak, but 1 week you fall off the horse and you got to get back on, right? It's okay. You take a deep breath, you get focused again, right? It happens to everybody. It happens to myself, it happens to my colleagues. We all fall off sometimes, but we just have to remind ourselves that this is a long-term goal. We're establishing a habit of saving. And so it's going to take work, it's going to take time. So we need to be kind to ourselves and just remind ourselves what the ultimate goal is here. Just because we overspend 1 week and we find ourselves in another tight situation doesn't mean we have failed. It just means that we're going to continue working, as we will for the rest of our life with savings, right? Financial tools are a constant lesson to be learned. So with that, that's going to wrap up the presentation for today. I want to thank all of you for tuning in, and I want to thank NOPL, or Northern Onondaga Public Library. I want to thank them for hosting this workshop for our community. SECNY is always here to help. So if you have any questions, we have 5 locations throughout the county, but we can also obviously talk over the phone or through Teams as well if you want to do a virtual meeting, though I think we're all getting a little frustrated and maybe a little bored with virtual meetings. So feel free to stop in anytime you would like as well. And you can explore all of those things at secny.org. But again, thank you to the library for having us. We are always here to help our community and host really cool programs just like this one.
Eric, thank you so much. That was an awesome presentation. I learned stuff tonight, and I'm definitely going to try to implement some of the stuff that I learned. So thank you so much. And thanks again to our viewers. Anybody out there with questions, you can find secny.org online. Visit your local library. You can find us at nopl.org, NOPL.org. And like Eric said, we have a bunch of resources for you if you want to start finance planning, budgeting planning, all that sort of fun stuff. Don't be afraid to ask. All right. And with that being said, thank you, and we will see you next time.